You can't heal in the same place you learned to disappear. And yet, so many of us try. We try to breathe where we once held our breath. We try to speak up in rooms that once taught us to stay small. We try to grow where our roots were wrapped around pain. But here's the raw truth. You can't create safety in the same space that trained you to survive silence. Today's not just about leaving what hurt you. It's about remembering who you were before you learned to disappear. Let's unpack this together. Environment isn't just background noise. It's the foundation of recovery. You can do all the inner work in the world, but if your outer world still mirrors your trauma, your nervous system will stay in survival mode. We don't just get hurt by what happened to us. We get hurt by where it happened and who it happened around. Recovery asks you to rebuild, but building requires materials, and your environment is one of them. Is your space helping you or reactivating you? If the people around you still speak the language of shame, if the energy in the room still makes you flinch, if your home feels more like a battlefield than a refuge, that's not recovery, that's endurance. And endurance is not the same as healing. Recovery means your body has to feel safe enough to release the old stories. You cannot rewire a survival system if your body is still preparing for war. Ask yourself, where does your body feel safest? Who or what makes you feel like you don't have to hide? Your body doesn't chase what's healthy, it chases what it knows. That's why so many people stay in familiar pain. It's not weakness, it's nervous system memory. Maybe the yelling doesn't scare you anymore. Maybe the silence feels normal. Maybe the chaos feels like home. But that's not safety, that's familiarity. The environment you learn to survive in may not be the environment you can thrive in. We confuse comfort with safety. We confuse history with healing. But if your environment constantly pulls you into old habits, if you find yourself shrinking, second-guessing, or flinching around the people who love you, that's not safety, that's programming. Just because it's familiar doesn't mean it's your fate. You get to choose something different. Ask yourself, who or what still feels like home, even though it keeps hurting you? Trauma doesn't just live in your mind, it lives in your body. And your body remembers rooms that hurt you, even if your brain says, it wasn't that bad. You ever walk into a place and feel your stomach clench? You ever hear a voice that sends your heart racing, even if they're being nice? That's not paranoia. It's your nervous system doing its job. Healing requires a different environment. One where your body can exhale, a room where you don't have to brace, conversation where you don't have to armor up, a relationship where you don't feel like you're too much. You can't breathe deeply where you once held your breath to survive. Your body keeps score, and so does the room. Ask yourself, where does your nervous system still think it has to perform or protect you? Here's the part nobody wants to hear. Sometimes the people who say they love you are the reason you can't heal. It's not always abuse. Sometimes it's subtle. It's being around people who dismiss your growth, who guilt trip you for setting boundaries, who expect you to stay the version of yourself that kept them comfortable. And we convince ourselves, they love me, they're trying. But love isn't supposed to suffocate. It's supposed to breathe with you, not breathe through you. Real love adapts to your healing, not resents it. If someone's love requires you to stay sick, silent, or small, that's not love. That's control. And if the love in your life only shows up when you perform, explain, or minimize yourself, it's time to ask whether it's love or obligation dressed up in affection. Ask yourself, who says they love me, but can't handle the version of me that's growing? So what does a healing environment look like? It's not about a perfect room or flawless people. It's about intentional energy. It's about being in spaces where you're not judged for your boundaries. Silence feels sacred, not threatening. Emotions are welcomed, not weaponized. Sometimes a healing environment is a room filled with laughter and warmth. Sometimes it's a forest, a notebook, a playlist that doesn't re-traumatize you. Could be a sober friend who texts back at midnight. A group that reminds you you're not crazy for leaving dysfunction. A therapist who doesn't rush you out of your grief. Healing isn't about isolation, it's about alignment. You're not meant to do this alone, but you are meant to do this intentionally. Your nervous system doesn't just need tools, it needs tone. People who speak gently, spaces that don't punish slowness, energy that doesn't feel like pressure. Ask yourself, what's one corner of your world you can make softer this week? Not for show, but for your nervous system. Here's your permission slip. You're allowed to outgrow the people, places, and patterns that hurt you. You're allowed to become someone your old environment no longer recognizes. That's not betrayal, that's evolution. And yes, it's going to feel weird. You may feel guilty, lonely, even lost. But you are not abandoning them. You are finally choosing you. You don't have to hate the place you're leaving. You just have to tell the truth about what it cost you to stay. And the more you align your environment with your healing, the more your nervous system will finally start to rest. You'll start to feel peace and not mistake it for boredom. You'll notice that quiet doesn't mean rejection. You'll remember what it feels like to be safe without being small. Ask yourself, what am I willing to release so I can finally make room for who I'm becoming? If this stirred something in you, don't ignore it. It's your nervous system recognizing a new truth. Like this video if it helped you name a part of your story. Subscribe for more bold, grounded recovery content. Drop a comment. What are you choosing to outgrow right now? Because someone else might read your words and finally feel brave enough to do the same. You're not just surviving anymore. You're reclaiming where you get to heal. And that changes everything.